Have you ever laid awake at night staring at the ceiling wondering, was it all fake? Did she love me? Or was I just a convenient chapter in her story? If that question has haunted you even once, this video could change how you approach love forever. Before we dive deep into the 6 signs she was using you according to Stoic philosophy, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear might just save you years of heartbreak and perhaps awaken the strongest version of you. Now let's build the context. Before we get into the truth, he was confident, successful, and kind. James had everything going for him: a steady career, close friends, and a calm mind sharpened by years of reading Stoic texts, especially the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. But then he met her. At first it was electric. She laughed at all his jokes, sent long texts late at night, and told him he was the best man she'd ever met. But as months passed, something shifted. The affection felt mechanical. Her presence became transactional. And eventually, when James stood up for himself, she vanished, leaving him with nothing but confusion. In his search for clarity, James opened Meditations again, and this time, he read it not with the eyes of a student, but of a man seeking answers to heartbreak. What he found stunned him. Marcus Aurelius never spoke about modern dating, but through his principles, James decoded the truth. And today, I'm going to walk you through those same Stoic insights. This isn't just a breakup video. 1. Her presence was conditional on your provision. Do you remember the first time you fell in love? Maybe it was the way she looked at you, like you were the only man in the world. Maybe it was the way she leaned into your shoulder during those late-night talks, or the way she smiled when you brought her coffee without her asking. Those memories, they still sting, don't they? Not because they were painful, but because they felt real, even if they weren't. Now think back to the moments when something started to feel off. You paid for dinners gladly. You drove across town when she needed something, no complaints. You listened to her problems, gave her advice, showed up when others didn't. But slowly, you began to feel like your love had a price tag. The smiles came when you gave. The warmth came when you sacrificed. And the silence came when you asked for something in return. It's like James, the man I told you about earlier. When he first met her, she lit up every room. She praised him, adored him, made him feel like a king. But every time he hesitated to spend, to plan, to provide, her mood shifted. The laughter stopped. The messages slowed. The affection turned cold. He tried harder, thinking he was the problem, but deep down, something didn't feel right. That's when he opened Marcus Aurelius' Meditations and read, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." Those words hit him like lightning, because real love doesn't demand a receipt. Stoicism teaches us that anything external, money, beauty, praise, can vanish at any moment. That's why a Stoic man doesn't build his identity on what he gives. He builds it on who he is. Let me ask you now, when you were giving her everything, your time, your attention, your resources, did you ever stop and ask yourself, what is she giving me? Not in terms of gifts or grand gestures, but in presence, in energy, in respect? You see, there's nothing wrong with giving. A man should provide, protect, and lead when love is mutual. But when her love only comes alive when your wallet is open or your favors are flowing, it's not affection, it's a transaction. And here's the harsh truth no one tells you. A woman who loves you for what you give will leave you the moment you stop giving. James learned this the hard way. The moment he pulled back just once, she disappeared. Not because he failed, but because she never stayed for him in the first place. So ask yourself honestly, was she holding your hand because she loved your soul, or because your hand held the keys to her convenience? If any part of this hits you, keep watching. This story isn't just his, it's yours too. And it's far from over. 2. She controlled you through emotional chaos. Have you ever been in love with someone who made you feel like you were going insane? One moment she was soft, affectionate, eyes filled with warmth. The next she was distant, cold, blaming you for things you didn't even know you did. You tried to make her happy. You walked on eggshells. You held your tongue, apologized for things you didn't understand, and somewhere along the way you forgot who you were. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know, you're not alone. James, the man we talked about earlier, lived through this exact storm. He fell hard for a woman who, at first, seemed emotionally deep and beautifully vulnerable. She told him stories about her painful past, how men had hurt her, how she just wanted something real. James listened. He held her. He became her safe space. But slowly, that space turned into a prison. Every time he set a boundary, she cried. Every time he said, "I need space," she accused him of abandoning her. If he asked a question, she'd twist it into an attack. And so, over time, James stopped questioning, stopped expressing, stopped being himself. And that's exactly what emotional chaos does. It doesn't scream at you with red flags. It whispers to you, quietly, persistently, maybe it's your fault. But Marcus Aurelius had a different perspective. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. James read that quote again and again, because for the first time he realized he couldn't control her emotions, but he could reclaim his own. Stoicism teaches us that the only true control we have in this world is over our own thoughts, our own choices. And a woman who constantly manipulates you with tears, anger, or guilt is not building love, she's building a cage. And every time you silence yourself to keep the peace, you're losing a part of your identity. Let me ask you something deeper. Have you ever stopped expressing your true feelings just to avoid a fight? Have you ever apologized just to make her stop crying, even when you knew you weren't wrong? That's not love. That's survival. And that survival mode, it leaves you exhausted, hollow, and resentful. But you bury it. Because you think real men endure, right? No, brother. Real men don't endure emotional abuse, they face it. The Stoic man stands still in the storm, not because he's numb, but because he refuses to be swayed by chaos. He knows his peace is his power. James finally saw that, and the day he calmly said, "This isn't healthy," it was the day she exploded and walked out. But he didn't chase her, because he realized she wasn't loving him. She was controlling him, and the moment you recognize that pattern is the moment you break free. So tell me honestly, are you truly loved, or are you just useful to her emotional drama? Think about that, because in the next sign we go even deeper. Don't click away. You're about to uncover what most men never see until it's too late. 3. Your growth threatened her. Have you ever felt guilty for leveling up? Think back to the moment you started to improve your life. Maybe you hit the gym more consistently. Maybe you started earning more, dressing better, reading books that sharpened your mind. You felt proud, strong, like a man finally stepping into his full potential. But then she changed. She grew colder, more distant. Suddenly your wins weren't worth celebrating. Your progress, it became a problem. Why? That's exactly what James asked himself. See, James wasn't always this focused, this centered. He used to be passive, people-pleasing, unsure of his worth. But after spending months diving into Stoic philosophy, especially the words of Marcus Aurelius, he began to evolve. He started standing straighter, speaking less but saying more. He started treating his time with more value. He had purpose in his eyes. And instead of clapping for him, she looked at him like he was becoming someone else, someone she couldn't control. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Marcus Aurelius. That quote became his anchor. He stopped trying to convince her that he was still the same man. Because deep down he knew he wasn't, he was better. And that scared her. Now I want you to pause and reflect for a second. Have you ever held back your potential just to keep the peace in your relationship? Have you skipped opportunities because you didn't want her to feel insecure? Downplayed your ambition just to avoid conflict? Or worse, shrank your light because her love only existed when you stayed small? That isn't partnership. That's fear disguised as affection. Marcus Aurelius would say that growth is the duty of every human being. A Stoic man doesn't stay still to make others comfortable. He grows with integrity, even if it means walking alone for a while. James learned that the hard way. When he started taking care of his body, she said he was becoming vain. When he spent weekends on personal projects, she accused him of neglecting her. When he talked about new dreams, she rolled her eyes. And then one night she looked at him and said, "You've changed." And James, without anger, replied, "Exactly." That's the moment he realized something powerful. She fell in love with the man he was. Not the man he was becoming, but real love grows with you. It adapts, it encourages, it thrives in transformation. So ask yourself from your own story, did she truly love you? Or did she love your limitations? Did she see your strength as a threat or as something to be proud of? If she shrank when you rose, if she got anxious when you found clarity, she wasn't afraid of losing you. She was afraid of losing control over you. And that's not love. That's dependency wrapped in disguise. Don't stop growing to protect a bond that can't survive your greatness. Because the right woman, she won't flinch when you evolve. She'll rise with you. 4. She never respected your time or boundaries. Have you ever felt like your time didn't matter in your relationship? Not because she said it directly, but because of the way she acted. You'd be at work grinding, building a future not just for yourself but for both of you. You'd tell her, "I've got a lot on my plate today." And what would she say? "So you don't have time for me anymore?" You'd carve out an hour at the gym to clear your mind, to stay disciplined. She'd reply with sarcasm, "You spend more time with weights than with me." You'd tell her you need some space, just a little mental breathing room. Suddenly she's pouting, acting like you're pushing her away. Sound familiar? It did for James too. Remember James, the guy we've been following? His story is yours in more ways than you might realize. See, in the beginning she was all smiles and support. She'd say things like, "I love how driven you are," or "I admire your focus." But as the months went on, the tone shifted. She'd call while he was in meetings, and when he didn't answer immediately, she'd send 4 texts in a row. "Where are you? Why aren't you replying? You never ignore me like this. What's going on?" At first he thought, maybe she just misses me. But it wasn't about missing him. It was about controlling him. Every boundary he set, she tested. Every time he chose discipline, she called it neglect. And when he finally said, "Babe, I need Sundays to recharge," she called him selfish. James was stuck in a cycle. He wasn't just managing his life, he was managing her reactions to it. That's when he read something that changed him. If someone does wrong, it is their problem. But if you let it disturb your peace, then it becomes your problem. Marcus Aurelius. That hit hard, because for the first time James realized he wasn't protecting his time. He was handing it away like it was worthless, just to keep the peace. So let me ask you directly, how many times have you canceled on yourself just to show up for her? How many times have you skipped rest, delayed your goals, ignored your gut just to keep her from being upset? That's not love. That's a slow erasure of your self-worth. A woman who loves you respects your time because she respects you. She understands that your boundaries aren't walls to push her away, but foundations that keep you sane, grounded and powerful. James eventually told her, "My time matters. My peace matters. And if that's a problem for you, maybe we are the problem." Her silence said it all. And just like that, he walked away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Because a Stoic man knows this. If you don't honor your time, no one else will. Now tell me, are you being loved or are you being used to fill someone else's boredom? Don't go anywhere. The next sign reveals what most men miss until they've lost everything. 5. She compared you to other men. Have you ever been in love with a woman who made you feel not enough? Not because you were lacking, but because she constantly reminded you, without saying it, directly, that someone else might be better. Maybe it was a casual comment. "Jake takes his girlfriend on vacations all the time." Or, "My ex never made such a big deal out of little things." Or that sigh she gave when she saw another couple, where the guy seemed taller, richer, more something. It cuts deep, doesn't it? That's exactly what happened to James. Remember James, the man we've been following through this story? When he first fell in love, he thought he had found peace. A woman who got him, who said she loved his simplicity, his depth, his patience. But slowly little cracks started to show. One night, after James came home tired from work, she said, "You never surprise me with flowers like my ex used to." Another time, she scrolled through social media and casually said, "Look at how Emily's boyfriend bought her a car. Must be nice to have that kind of love." James laughed it off at first, but something inside him broke a little each time. He started wondering, am I not doing enough? Am I not man enough? And that's when he fell into a dangerous trap, comparison, not with strangers, but with shadows from her past and illusions from her imagination. But then James picked up Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and read, "How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only what he does himself." That was the shift, because Marcus wasn't just talking about ignoring the opinions of others. He was talking about reclaiming your self-worth. James realized something powerful that night. He wasn't falling short. She was shifting the goalpost. You see, a woman who loves you will inspire you to grow, not shame you into chasing approval. There's a big difference between encouragement and emotional sabotage. So let me ask you this from the truth of your own story. Have you ever started doing more not because you wanted to, but because you were afraid of losing her to someone better? Have you ever twisted yourself trying to meet expectations that were never clear? Always changing? That's not love. That's insecurity in disguise. And here's the Stoic truth. The man who tries to be everyone else loses himself. James decided that night he would no longer compete with ghosts. He wouldn't measure his masculinity by the size of his gifts, or how often he could impress her. He chose to show up as himself, present, grounded, whole. And when she said, "You've changed," he smiled and replied, "No, I've just remembered who I am." Brother, your value isn't in how much you impress. It's in how deeply you stay true to yourself when the world, or a woman, tries to make you doubt it. 6. She pulled away when you needed her most. Who was there for you when your world started to fall apart? Not the people who smiled at your success, but the one who held your hand when life got heavy, when your strength was running on fumes and all you needed was someone to say, "I've got you." Now think back. Was she there? Was the woman you loved truly there when you were weak? Or did she quietly disappear, emotionally, mentally, even physically, just when you needed her most? James, the man we've been walking with in this story, faced this very heartbreak. At one point in his life, everything went wrong at once. His father got sick. He lost a major business deal that took years to build. And worst of all, he started to doubt himself, his worth, his purpose, his path. In those moments, he didn't need much. He wasn't asking for miracles. He just needed her presence. A quiet hug, a warm hand, a simple, "You're not alone." But instead, she distanced herself. She said things like, "You're too negative lately," or, "I can't be around you when you're like this." She made his pain about her discomfort, and James, like many men, silently broke. He didn't scream. He didn't beg. He just swallowed his sorrow and carried on, alone. But then he read something from Marcus Aurelius that cracked the fog. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. James realized, love isn't shown when everything's perfect. It's proven when everything's falling apart. See, when life tests you, you discover who truly values your soul, not just your smile. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever gone through hell and realized the person you were building your future with couldn't handle your storms? Maybe you were grieving, and she grew silent. Maybe you were struggling financially, and she became cold. Maybe you simply needed support, and she called you too emotional. Brother, let me tell you, if she disappears during your darkest hour, she was never truly with you in the first place. Because real love doesn't flinch in the face of struggle. It leans in. It doesn't shame you for breaking. It sits beside your brokenness and says, "I'm not going anywhere." James eventually looked in the mirror and asked, "If I can't lean on her now, what exactly have I been holding on to?" That's when the clarity hit. He wasn't in love. He was in hope, hoping she'd change, hoping she'd see his worth, hoping she'd step up when it counted. But hope without action is just self-destruction. So he let go, because a Stoic man doesn't beg for presents. He simply watches who shows up when it matters, and walks away from those who don't. And now I ask you, in your story, who was there when you needed someone the most? Here's the thing most men never realize. She didn't break you. She revealed you. She showed you where your boundaries were soft. She exposed the part of you still craving validation. She awakened the weakness your ego worked hard to hide. But the Stoic man, he doesn't chase revenge. He doesn't spiral in bitterness. He thanks the fire for teaching him to become flame-proof. So if you're watching this feeling like James, wondering how you let it happen, don't regret her. Learn from her. Let this be your Stoic rebirth. Because a woman who uses you doesn't steal your power. She shows you where to reclaim it. And when you build a man she can never manipulate again, that's when the healing becomes unstoppable. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.